Are you looking for the best power pickleball paddle on the market and you just can't decide which one is best for you? Well, I'm going to help break down all of this madness that's been going on. There's been a ton of power pickleball paddles released in the last 4 or 5 months. Everything's been going crazy. Everyone's trying to chase that limit, and yeah, the scene's heating up. So let's get into it. How am I going to break it down today? Well, there's a lot that's changed in the last 5 months. I mean, one guy included the ripple in his best power paddle video 5 months ago. Bro, that's so not cool. Why'd you have to call me out like that? And look how that went. So anyway, we're going to get into it. I'm going to break it down by elongated, hybrid, and widebody, and what my top picks for each of those categories are. And of course, some honorable mentions that for me weren't my top pick, but they could be the top pick for you. So I am doing a giveaway. Basically, any power paddle on this list, brand new, is going to the winner. Just subscribe right now and then stick around to the end of the video to find out how. But first, I know what everyone wants to do. Everyone always asks, oh, what's the power and pop compared to this paddle? What's the power and pop of this paddle to this paddle? You know what? I've got every paddle that I'm going to talk about today, and I've got all the stats right here. So we've got the power, we got the pop, we got the swing weight, the twist weight, the spin, the price, all in a nice little table for you. So if you wanted to just, pause, look at it, do whatever number crunching you want. I'll try to have this Google Doc linked, and then I'm going to also start building my own database so that I will include everything, not just the power paddles, so that you will have that accessible. You can play around with it, do whatever you want with it. But yeah, let's get into it. So right here on the screen, let's start talking about what's the most powerful paddle right now. I have the Yola Pro 4 Perseus 16 millimeter as my most powerful paddle. And so let's just break down what the difference between power and pop is for those who are maybe newer to the pickleball scene or just aren't sure and they've heard the terms. The way I'm measuring pop is I'm doing counter punches with a paddle, right? So I'm taking a ball and I'm doing counter punches like that. And the power, I'm measuring serve speed and taking an average. So I think the easiest way to think about it is pop is kind of how much instant power you're getting from the paddle. How much effortless power you're getting from the paddle. That power is what the paddle is fully capable of on overheads, serves, and drives. The pop is, how much quick access do you have to the power, on your counter punches, on some of your quick roll volleys and swinging volleys. How much effort do you need to put into it? That's where that pop is kind of like, okay, we start off at this power level, and then we could go all the way up to here. Or do we have to start lower and do we have to go all the way up here? That's kind of like the easiest way to digest it. But the top power paddle here is the Yola Pro 4 Perseus, and that is an elongated shape. My most powerful paddle on the list. And then right behind that, you got the Yola Pro 4 Agassi, 14 millimeter. And then I would have the Yola Pro 4 14 millimeter in Agassi, but I didn't want to crowd the list, and get everything on there, but I will add it to the spreadsheet for your use. Right behind there, we have the Paddletech TKOC, Proton Flamingo, the Gearbox Pro Ultimate Power, and then as we go down the list, you can see all the other stuff. So that's sorted by power. Now pop, if we go to pop, and we'll sort by pop here. The Paddletechs are still king of the pop for me. The ESQC 12.7 or the Elite Water 12.7, just basically the difference between those two is the ESQC is a longer handle than the Elite Water 12.7. These are the poppiest paddles for me. So if you are looking for that instant power, then these are going to be it on those counter punches. And obviously the wide body shape doesn't have a ton in the power category. We'll talk more about that. But yeah, Paddletech Bantams, still those poppiest ones along with the ESQC. And we got the Gen 3 S Scorpius. And then I also got a ton of pop with the J2K Plus. And then jumping into the lowest swing weight, if that is a huge factor for you, the Paddletech ESQC 12.7, and the Franklin C45 are the lowest stock swing weight paddles. And then if you're wondering about the twist weight, highest twist weight, well, this one, as you can see, is the Franklin C45 when I weighted up a ton. J2K Plus comes at the highest stock twist weight, and the Vapor Power from 11.624 is the other one that breaks 7 there. And then spin, which we all are always asking about the spin. Honestly, for the spin, I wouldn't really worry too much about it these days, but the Carbon True Foam Genesis 2 got the most spin for me, and that just comes down to it getting a lot of dwell time for me. And then we'll go to the price real quick, just so we can kind of get an overview. You have the J2K Plus and then the Vapor Power series being some of the cheaper options for the power paddles. And then you go all the way up to the Flamingo and the Yolas at $280 as the most expensive. As you can see, most of the options on this list are over $200. All right, so let's talk about which paddles in each category are my favorite. I'm gonna start off with the wide bodies. Okay, so we're starting off with the wide bodies. So my number one option for the wide bodies is the Paddletech Bantam Anally Water 12.7 or the ESQ-C 12.7 millimeter, depending on if you need the longer handle or not. If you don't need the longer handle, I think the Anally Water -C 12.7 millimeter would be the choice that I would make. If you want the 5.5 inch handle, then go with the ESQ-C. Just have this one because I really like the signature edition for the Anally Water one. But basically, my weight setup on this is going all the way around with a 0.5 gram per inch strip of tungsten tape. This paddle plays very poppy. When you put the weight on it, you get tons of power, and it has, you know, a very springy-like feeling. In the sweet spot, it feels pretty good. And once you put the weight on this, honestly, the sweet spot is excellent. Stock, the sweet spot does suffer a little bit towards the top and a little bit towards the edges, but with the weight, it really shores that up, and this becomes my favorite wide body power paddle just because of how offensive it is. Now, this and the ESQ-C 12.7 are some of the harder ones to control, but if you're going with, you know, like the top pick for wide body, hybrid, and elongated, this would be the easiest of those three to control. But it is not easy to control. Let's just say that. So my second choice would be the Carbon True Foam Genesis 2. And honestly, this one is just great if you are looking to have a power paddle that is more controllable and has a more soft and muted feel and gets amazing dwell time. So if you're looking for something, you're like, hey, I don't want to go too extreme for a wide body power paddle. I want something that is a good power paddle on that, you know, a little bit lower end of the power curve here, but still good enough to, you know, have an aggressive game, then that would be the Carbon True Foam Genesis. That would be what I would recommend. And I'll throw up the prices on each of these too. In this weight setup, I have about 8 inches coming from the handle up here of 0.5 gram per inch strip tungsten tape, and this just helps the True Foam get a little bit more power. It was at the bottom of the paddles with the power, and that just helps give it a little extra boost. You know, playing with these all foam cores too, I should mention, it seems like these are doing a little bit better in the durability as far as too for the Paddletech also does well with the durability. So 2 other bonus points for these paddles, but plays excellently. I think if you were worried about not being able to control the paddle, this is the best of the power paddles on the list for control. Now, third, which you know, could turn into the Pro 4. Right now, third would be the Scorpius 3S 14mm from Yola. I think this is just an excellent, excellent power paddle. A great power and pop combo. Now, it does have that hollow, stiffer feel. So for some, they like it. For some, if you have like, you know, any elbow problems, then I would not recommend that. But this obviously will be coming out in the Pro 4 version of the Scorpius as well. So right now, it's not out though, so we're not including it on the list, but excellent, excellent paddle as well. All right, now we're into the hybrids. The last time that I had a power paddle video, there was really only one power paddle hybrid to choose from, which was the Spartus Olympus, but I'm going to officially say it's no longer claiming my #1 spot, although it is still really good. We'll talk about it. The Vapor Power at $159.99. This thing is one of the best price power paddles on the list, and all of the 11624 Power Series, whether you're looking for the Pegasus or the Widebody or the Huarache X Elongated, are both great options too. We'll talk more about that in a second. But this Vapor Power plays really well stock. It has pretty good dwell time, great spin, and then I just put 1 gram per inch tungsten tape for 6 inches from the handle up here. And look, this is just, it just plays very, very well. I did a great breakdown of this versus the Olympus if you want to go more in depth. But if you're just looking for the most playable stock paddle and you want great power, this one does take a little bit more effort to access that power. You really start feeling it on the biggest full swings in your serve, your drives, and your overheads, which honestly for me is really good, because it's like, all right, when you want to access that power, you're going to swing hard, and when you aren't and you want to play a little softer, it does a great job of that. And I love this hybrid. I love this hybrid shape. Love the shape. So Vapor Power just got my #1 spot for the hybrids. #2, really going back and forth between the Spartus Olympus and the Franklin C45, battling. But honestly, got to go with the old faithful Spartus Olympus for my #2 pick. 1 gram per inch, 9-inch strip of tungsten tape going from the handle up. This thing comes in at a low swing weight of 110 stock, so really needs the added weight because it is a little unstable. Without that, where the Vapor Power already comes in pretty stable, and that's why it's one of the best stock. But this has more pop than the Vapor Power. Doesn't have as much top end power as that. You can get it to be about equivalent with adding weight, but that's just it. It is a little bit stiffer as well on some of the off-center shots, so that's where it kind of got dinged. But yeah, I think that most people probably going to play better with the Vapor Power, but if you're really looking for that extra juice in the pop, then the Spartus Olympus would be the choice. Franklin C45, 14 millimeter, very interesting paddle. Comes in at a 105 swing weight, super lightweight paddle, 7.6 ounces. I love the grip too. This one is interesting. It has the more hollow feel, double thermoformed. You can go see how the review want to see how that process works. I put an 8-inch strip, 1 gram per inch on each side. Get that twist way up high. You can see in there, and that's why this one's just it's not going to be for everyone, because you have to make the modifications to make this play well, as you can see, and that's why I put it in the stats with the weight and without, because I need to show that there's such a drastic difference when you put weight on this thing. That's why I put it as my 3rd choice, just in case you didn't want to, make all those improvements to make it the paddle it is, but it is very good once you put those improvements on. And then my other honorable mention is the J2K Plus, which for me, having the Honolulu J2K as my paddle of the year last year, and one that I really played a lot last year, having it become a power paddle in the J2K Plus version, I really do enjoy it. I've just heard too many varying things to really want to put it in that top 3. Like the ones I have play really well, and they have great pop and power, as you can see, and great stability with that twist weight that we have come to know and love with the J2K shape. But I've heard people's paddles not getting that power and pop, and some, just have said it hasn't heated up. So it's kind of the opposite problem of some of the elongated paddles we'll talk about, where they're breaking. These ones just aren't breaking in, and they aren't getting the power and pop. So until they work out those consistency issues, or I can only go based on what I hear. My experience has been great, but there's been enough people talking, I didn't want to put it in my top 3 at this time. But when we update it, maybe it will be there. Let's go on to the elongated paddles. Okay, for the elongated paddles, yeah. And before you attack me as being a YOLO fanboy, don't do it! Don't do it! Okay. I was one of the biggest YOLO critics over the past year. I faulted them for their customer service. I faulted them for the paddle debacle, right? I was there, front lines. I was doing the battle. So, you know, some people said I had it out for them, but look, number one, elongated power paddle, and possibly the number one power paddle around right now. This Perseus 16 millimeter Pro 4 is excellent, excellent, excellent. The power you can get with this thing. So the thing with the design on this, the diving board propulsion core, is yes, the sweet spot. You know, the higher up on that sweet spot you get, the more power you get. So for the 16 millimeter, you do have to be careful to make sure you hit that sweet spot on those big drives and serves. Otherwise, you will be a little inconsistent because the power difference from the sweet spot to not in the sweet spot is quite drastic. I mean, that just kind of goes with any power paddle, right? Like the power difference between the sweet spot and not sweet spot is going to be pretty big. But what they did in this Pro 4 with the Tech Flex, putting extra foam in here, just made the paddle more stable. It feels way better. It's not as hollow as the 3S. So I really, really enjoy this. And if you're looking for an elongated power paddle with the most power, Perseus 16 millimeter from the Pro 4 line is just top notch. If you're looking to get the Agassi version, just wondering what the difference is. So the Agassi version, which I really do enjoy as well, as you can see here, it's just like a little different of a shape. But honestly, if you are someone that tends to hit lower on the paddle, I think the sweet spot on the Agassi version is just a little higher than on the Perseus version. It's not super noticeable, and you might not notice it, but I do. I also think that like towards the bottom here, it's a little less stable compared to the Perseus. So that's kind of my interpretation of the difference between the two. Also, some people just think the shape's ugly. I think it's cool. But yeah, that's kind of the difference there. I put a 5-inch 1 gram per inch strip here, going from like, an inch above the handle here and going up. And that just helps shore up a little bit of the stability that you get with the elongated paddles. And since this is at 118 swing weight, it can afford a little bit of weight for me. But you could play it stock, no problem as well. The 14 millimeters have a little bit more pop and a little bit less power. So if that is what you were looking for, those are also excellent. I really did like the most time I've spent with any of the paddles after the 16 millimeter Perseus was the Agassi 14 millimeter, and I really, really did enjoy that one. Now, second on the list, the Bantam TKO C 12.7. When I was making this video, I hadn't played this one in a bit, and I forgot how much fun this paddle is. Having that pop and power combo in this elongated paddle. One thing I should mention too, this handle, I can fit two-handed backhands on it, no problem. But if you wanted the longer handle, they make a CX version of this with a longer handle that's 5.75 inches. But I prefer the TKO C 12.7. This thing just slaps. Problem is, sweet spot's going to be a little bit smaller. I put some for the C version. They don't have the internal weighting like they do on the CX, so I put 1 gram per inch strip here. This is about 4 inches, and then I kind of doubled up right there. So 2 different strips of the 1 gram per inch strip just to help shore it up, and that really makes it play a lot better. Thing is, this is stiff and you feel it in your elbow a little bit if you have any sensitivities. That's why I just couldn't main this paddle, is like I really enjoy playing with it, but for me it just gets too stiff on my elbow. Unfortunately, I'm just old. That's what happens. So third choice is really hard. There's just a ton of elongated, so I kind of included a little bit of each. The Thrive Smoke, really good pop power combo there from the Thrive Smoke and the Hirachi X Power. So if you're looking for that 14.5 millimeter that gets great pop and is at that entry level for the power paddles for as far as power goes, and it feels pretty pleasant and lets you pick your swing weight in a, in a range. I did like the Thrive Smoke. Carbon True Foam Genesis 3, really enjoyed that one too. On the lower end of the power scale for the Elongateds, but if you want the one with the most dwell time in the Elongateds and some of the best spin, that's the one I would pick if you're looking for those categories. Gearbox Pro Ultimate Power, another one that's very plush and muted feeling, which is interesting, not what we're used to from Gearbox. This one I played really well with. Unfortunately too, though, it was the highest swing weight on this list, kind of the drawbacks, but you get great power and it's not too poppy. It's about average for a pop. So if you want something that has really great power but is more controllable pop, then the Gearbox Pro Ultimate Power would actually be a pretty good pick for that. And then the Proton Flamingo, well, Proton Flamingo is probably the closest on this list to the Perseus Pro 4 16 millimeter. The problem with the Flamingo is I've just heard too many things about it breaking and getting too hot. This one is one of the ones that needs to, one of those break-in periods before it actually starts getting that power too, whereas the Perseus Pro 4, the power is there just instantly. So the Flamingo has a break-in time, and then I think if you are a big hitter, you are going to break the Flamingo. All the people that I know that are big hitters have broke the Flamingo. If you're not a huge big hitter, then the Flamingo would probably be okay if you're really in love with the design and you want something that is similar to the Perseus, but not a Perseus. So that's all I have for the elongated paddles. Let's move into the conclusion. Okay, so that's all I have on all the power paddles. If you want more information, I think I have reviews on most of these, but feel free to drop a question in the comments as well. Always happy to answer the questions. I think I get to almost every comment these days. At least I try. If I don't get to it right away, don't worry. If you have a great question, I will be there with the answer. But so many power paddles these days, and I feel like, in the next 2 to 3 months, of course, we'll have more. So we'll try to make this quarterly, make sure we get you the best update and information possible. Now, I know what you've been waiting for. If you want to enter the giveaway, we're going to do things a little different this time. It's been a while, I know. So here's what we're going to do. I want to hear first, what's your favorite power paddle? Just tell me your favorite power paddle. And if you don't have a favorite power paddle, you better make one up for me. And then second, I want to hear your best pickleball story. It could be funny, it could be serious, it could be life-changing, it could be sad. Just tell me your best pickleball story. And I'm going to pick my favorite story for the winner here. So I'll pick that. Let's say we'll pick it by, we'll pick it by the end of March. Let's not wait too long there. So that's all I have on the power paddle videos, and I'll make the announcement on YouTube for the community page on my page. So thank you so much. Please subscribe if you found this information helpful. Like the video, and you know what? Have a great day and go play some pickleball.